A very good morning, students. This is a video for the brainstem, the external features of the brainstem. As you know by this time from our yesterday's video that the brainstem consists of the three parts. Here is the midbrain inside, okay, deeply situated here. Then this is the pons and this is the medulla oblongata. So if we go from below upward, it is the medulla oblongata, the pons, and here is the midbrain. All these three structures, they form what is called as the brain stem. Now the medulla, if you will see below, as I said, okay, in the last video, that as soon as the medulla oblongata will come out from the foramina magnum, it will continue as the spinal cord. So the medulla below continues as the spinal cord, while the midbrain above, it continues as the cerebrum or the forebrain. Okay, so forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, we have yesterday learned about it. So these are the three parts of the brain stem: medulla, pons, and that of the midbrain. Okay, now this pons and medulla, okay, as well as this pons and medulla, okay, they are separated behind or posteriorly. You can see here, this is the medulla and this is the pons, and posteriorly they are separated by this lobe of the cerebellum or just the cerebellum. Okay, so posteriorly in relation to the pons and medulla is that of the cerebellum. But this cerebellum is connected to that of the brainstem, that is midbrain, pons, and medulla, with the help of three cerebellar peduncle or cerebellar peduncles. These three cerebellar peduncle by which the cerebellum is connected with the brainstem are superior cerebellar peduncle, and this connect the cerebellum with that of the midbrain. Then there is a middle cerebellar peduncle. See this part. This part is the middle cerebellar peduncle, which is attached just lateral to the pons, and it is going inside the cerebellum. So this is the middle cerebellar peduncle, and here just posterolateral to the olive, there is a rope-like structure which is going from the medulla inside the cerebellum here, and this is called as the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Just I will, with the help of the point of the pen, ball pen, I am showing you that this is the inferior cerebellar peduncle which is going to the cerebellum. Thus these are the three peduncles: superior cerebellar peduncle which connects the cerebellum with the midbrain, middle cerebellar peduncle which it connected to the cerebellum to the pons, and then there is the inferior cerebellar peduncle which connect the cerebellum to that of the medulla oblongata. Okay, now posteriorly, yes, this is from the ventral surface we are seeing the brain stem, medulla, pons, and midbrain. But posteriorly, as I said, that posteriorly pons and medulla are separated posteriorly by the cerebellum. Okay, and interposed between the pons and the upper half of the medulla, there is a cavity called as the fourth ventricle. Now, what we are going to do is we will take a section, mid-sagittal section of the brain, and I will show you how the pons and the medulla are separated from that of the cerebellum, where interposed between these two structure is that of the fourth ventricle. Let us see. Just let me remove this brain to one side so I can bring it down. Here, this is the mid sagittal. This is the right cerebral hemisphere is there, and since Probably most of you are seeing this section for the first time. I will just revise some of the important structure. This is the corpus callosum, the bundle of the white fiber which connects the right cerebral hemisphere. This is the right cerebral hemisphere with that of the left side. And in midline we have cut. Thus the two cerebral hemispheres, they are separated. Okay, this is the fornix, this is the thalamus. This portion, though broken, is the hypothalamus. This rounded structure is the mammillary body. And another important structure which is here behind the thalamus is this is the pineal gland. Okay, and then this is the third ventricle, and this is the lateral ventricle. This is the third ventricle, and this part from here, thalamus, below the hypothalamus, this part, this is small part, hardly 1 or 1.5 centimeter, or at the most 2 centimeter long part, this is the midbrain. From here to here, this part is the midbrain, in which present is the cerebral aqueduct, where the tip of this ball pen is going. This is the cerebral aqueduct, and the midbrain, which contains the cerebral aqueduct, continues above with that of the cavity called as the third ventricle. Then this is the pons. Okay, this is the posterior surface of the pons, and below the pons, this part is the medulla. Though complete medulla is not here, most of it is from that of the upper half and little is from that of the lower half part. So this is the medulla, this is the pons, and this is the midbrain. All three collectively are known as the brain stem. If you see the posterior aspect of the pons, then you will see that on the posterior aspect this is a cavity, and similarly in the upper half of the medulla is posterior surface of upper half of the medulla is also inside the cavity, that means forming a floor of the cavity, and this cavity is the fourth ventricle. It means that the cerebral aqueduct, which is present in the midbrain of the brain stem, connects the third ventricle of cerebrum with that of the fourth ventricle of the brain stem, or the hindbrain. Okay, so this is the fourth ventricular cavity. So the posteriorly the pons is related to the cerebellum. Okay, similarly upper half of the medulla is also related to cerebellum, but separated through a cavity called as the fourth ventricle. This is the close part of the medulla where cerebral aqueduct will start, not cerebral aqueduct, I am sorry, the central canal will start, which will continue in the spinal cord, a canal lined by ependyma in which the CSF is filled, not seen very properly here. If I will get, I will show you in the diagram here this structure. Okay, so this is the part of the brain stem. Okay, midbrain, pons, and that of the medulla oblongata. Now what is there in the, if you see the ventral aspect of the brain stem, again let us see this specimen where ventral aspect of the brain stem is seen. You will see that there is the attachment of the various cranial nerve. On the midbrain there is the attachment of the third and the fourth cranial nerve. I will not show you very much, every cranial nerve here. This is the third cranial nerve is here at the tip of my this is called as oculomotor nerve. Then there will be the fifth cranial nerve, which is probably broken from here, but this is the trigeminal nerve. So the fifth cranial nerve is attached to the pons. Third and fourth, as I said, is attached to the midbrain. Fifth to the pons, and at the junction of the pons and the upper end of the medulla, in this groove, frontomedullary junctional groove, there are the attachment of the sixth, seventh, and eighth cranial nerve, detached from here, not seen. And then from the medulla, there is the attachment of the 12th cranial nerve, that is the hypoglossal here, and on the posterolateral sulcus of medulla there are attachment of the 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerve. It means the brain stem gives attachment to the 10 pairs of cranial nerves, 10 on right side, 10 on left side, is starting from 3rd to 12th. Okay, starting from third to 10th. Now then you must be wondering that why the brain stem is being taught to us. What is the importance of this brain stem where the white matter is onto the surface? Okay, in the cerebrum and cerebellum, the gray matter was on the surface. Now this brain stem, that is medulla, pons, and that of the midbrain, is an important, I'm to say, part of the brain which gives passage to mostly, I'm say, ascending and the descending tracts. And tracts, by this time you should know, it is the collection of the bundles of the nerve fibers, whether they are ascending or descend. So many white fibers are the tracts, okay, they are ascending or descending, connecting the cerebrum to the lower centers, that is the various levels of spinal cord or the nuclei in the brain stem, or from spinal cord these tracts are going to the brain, okay, to the brain. Now this brain stem functionally is very important, and it contains many nuclei which we will learn later. So many nuclei, and naturally they are the nuclei which gives origin to these cranial nerves, okay, 12 pairs of cranials, out of which third to that of the 12th cranial nerve nuclei are located within the brain stem, okay. Now there beside this nuclei of brain stem and beside the ascending and descending tract, there are some gray matter collections which are called as the vital center. Now the brain stem is an important seat for the consciousness. When we are aware, alert, okay, or we are conscious, it is because of our brain stem. There is center for respiration, then center to heart and the blood vessels, what is called as the cardiovascular centers are there. Thus vital center of our bodies are located in brain stem. When I say vital center, mean the same. The beating of the heart is controlled by, that is cardiac activities are controlled by brain stem. So is our blood pressure is controlled by the brain stem. Our respiration is controlled by the blood stream. Our alertness is our consciousness is controlled by the brain stem, and to a certain extent, and there is a center for the vomiting. This was a very short video for the brain stem where I have just covered, you can take it as an introductory demonstration for the brain stem. Now what I am going to tell you, I will show you the brain stem with the help of the book, and this book is called as the neuroanatomy. And this neuroanatomy is for the medical student like you people, written by me, and it is published by, just let me remove this tray and so that I can put this here. Okay, so this is the neuroanatomy for medical student, written by me, and it is published by the Walter Kluwer. I am thankful to the Walter Kluwer for using some of the diagram for today's video. Now this is the brain stem, okay, this is, I have taken it from this chapter on the brain stem, okay, and this diagram will show you the brain stem. This is the midbrain, pons and medulla, and various cranial nerves they are coming, which we will learn later. Just remember that this is the ventral aspect, and that portion which I have shown you into the, in a mid-sagittal section, the midbrain, the pons, the medulla. This is a closed part of the medulla, okay, which was absent. Okay, this is the open part, so, of the medulla, and this is the posterior surface of the pons, and these two forms what is called as the fourth ventricle, which is continuous above with the cerebral aqueduct, and this fourth ventricle in a closed part of the medulla is continuous with central canal, which itself will continue with the spinal cord. Let us see if there is some other important diagram here. Okay, so this is about the brain stem, a general introduction. Thank you very much for watching this video.